Well, hey there, how you guys doing? It's Petey Two Finger. I am here taking a look at Roger Waters has announced his Dark Side of the Moon redo. So it's coming out in October. It's a solo LP reworked version of Dark Side of the Moon. He's released the version of the song Money, which, in my opinion, is the worst or my least favorite piece of music on Dark Side of the Moon. And it's a perfect and as a true, I would say I'm a true fan of Roger Waters, considering I have never missed a solo tour that this man has produced. I have seen them all. I think that qualifies me to say that I am a true Roger Waters fan. I wanted to give my thoughts and feelings about the Dark Side of the Moon redo because I see a lot of other people spouting off about Waters doing his new version, his re recorded version of the classic, excuse me, I'm yawning, classic, all time favorite Dark Side of the Moon, legendary album in music, and the public and the media taking potshots at Pink Floyd founder Roger Waters is commonplace. People like to take shots at Roger Waters. And I like to stick up for old Roger. I think that he is one of the most incredible minds in rock and roll, that he thought of some really amazing things. While he obviously is a deeply flawed human being, because we all are, I can give Roger Waters a little bit of leeway there. He's not perfect. He's not Bono. He's not Eddie Vedder. He's not giving out free turkeys to the homeless at Thanksgiving for the MTV photographers. He has re recorded his masterpiece that he wrote, Dark Side of the Moon. He wrote Dark Side of the Moon. He wrote it. Now, what? What's so
I
funny?
was gonna say, who wrote it? Because you keep saying who wrote
Waters wrote it.
it. I
The
know
other
it's just
guys
funny.
chipped in a little bit on the music here and there and some ideas, but for the lyrics, Roger came up with the concept and the lyrics for all the songs. So Nick Mason is the drummer, and he's been the guy, the constant in the band in Pink Floyd, who uh, he's been like the guy in the middle, kind of. He's friends with Gilmore. He's also friends with Waters. And co-founder Nick Mason called the new version absolutely brilliant after Waters sent him a copy of it. They added this. He added it wouldn't be a spoiler for the original at all. In early March, Waters uploaded a teaser clip of the re recorded song Us and Them. That is my favorite song on the album. One of my top favorite Pink Floyd moments. I believe Us and Them to be a perfect piece of Pink Floyd music, and that's one of the first perfect Pink Floyd piece that's on the album. I think that it hits like, okay, the Breathe, Reprise, and Time are really up there, and like, you know, uh, what's the instrumental? Great Gig in the Sky is an incredible, but as far as Pink Floyd firing on all four cylinders, you got David singing. You don't have a guitar solo, you have a sax solo, but you have Rick Wright shining through on the piano. I absolutely love the loud, quiet, loud functionality of Us and Them. I love the lyrical content, the anti-government, anti-war, anti-capitalism type of ranty type lyrics. that don't really suggest a solution, but it's just kind of bitching about the status quo and about war. I love Us and Them. I think it's perfect. I think it's kind of a blueprint for something that Pink Floyd did very well in very few instances, where it was just perfect. This version of Money, I listened to it expecting to not like it. Now, mind you, the reason that I thought I wouldn't like it is all of the negative comments that I've read. So many people have listened to this and made nasty negative comments about it. And I got to tell you, I loved it. I thought Money, Roger Waters' new version of Money for Dark Side of the Moon redo, was witty. It was artsy. It had just the right amount of musical flair, unusual orchestral maneuvers, and then Roger Waters' personality. The main thing that's interjected into this is Waters doing his thing, strutting his stuff, throwing down some poetry, and painting a little picture very colorfully with some like brilliant wordplay. Okay, this is Waters strutting his stuff. It's really good, really Roger Waters story poem that he narrates all throughout the musical solo section of Dark Side of the Moon. Now, what I've got to say relating to back to what Nick said, because I saw so many people making comments like, I'll stick to the original. Okay, let me tell you something. Okay, if Roger Waters comes out with a new album, nobody's really going to talk about it or notice it. And he wrote Dark Side of the Moon. So if he comes out with a new version of it, everybody's going to, including me, is going to spout off on it. And at least he's at least he's going to get some payback. At least he's going to get some kind of reaction. Because there's nothing worse as an artist than creating something that you pour your heart and soul into and then having everyone ignore it. So it's his prerogative. He created Dark Side of the Moon. He can re-record it at 75 years old. How old is Roger? 77? He's getting up there.
Yeah,
And I got to tell you, going back to
I
what,
think he's 79.
yeah,
Or he
he's
will
coming
be.
up
I
on
think he will be.
coming up on 80.
He's
Yeah,
going to be 80, I think, in September, if I'm right.
Yeah, that's right. He is a September guy. So going back to what Nick said, this is not in competition with the original Dark Side of the Moon. Roger is not intending to trump it, to replace it, oh, this is better, this is what it should have been. He's doing Roger Waters as a 78, 79-year-old human being, his version of Dark Side of the Moon. His raspy old fart, hipster beat poetry, Leonard Cohen, slowed down, speed the record up to 78 speed, maybe you'll like it, version of Dark Side of the Moon. You know what? I love it. I absolutely love it. I'm thrilled. I could not be more happy and anxious to hear the rest of the album. I watched the video for Money. I'm not going to have any spoilers for that. I absolutely loved and was thoroughly entertained by the video. I thought it was absolutely perfect. And the music, well, it spoke for itself. Hats off, Roger Waters. I loved your version of Money. I absolutely cannot wait for this new version of Dark Side of the Moon, which does not compete with the original version. It does not replace the original version. It's Roger as an old codger, an old fart, revisiting his glory days and putting a new, a much, much, much later, much more aged and developed spin on this masterwork. That is not to say well, when Dark Side of the Moon was created, it had all those that horrible Dave Gilmour guitar in there. That's not what he's saying, okay? And the original is not going anywhere. It's still gonna exist. The radio stations are not gonna stop playing the classic rock. No, WFMT, the rock. We're gonna play some Roger Waters, Dark Side of the Moon, Money version. They're not going to be playing that. They're going to play the David Gilmour guitar solo version. So calm down. This is for fans of Roger Waters. It's not for people who can't stand his politics. Okay? Because some of us are able to give people a break and not even care about their politics. Okay? If you're a human being, that means I love you because you're a human being. You're precious that you're alive at the same time I am. I'm not going to hate you and judge you because you feel differently about some shadow puppet, you know, contestants on a game show, is what I'll call them. So I can give Roger Waters a break on his politics long enough, and I can realize Roger Waters is a flawed human being. He isn't the Christ child of Pink Floyd, that God sent his son so he could record with David Gilmour and Nick Mason and Rick Wright and make the best album that was ever been made. He's just a guy, you know, and I can give him a break because maybe we don't agree on all of his politics, but what I do agree about is I'm thrilled that he has redone Dark Side of the Moon because there will be another option. That day comes, I will be listening to the Roger Waters re-recorded version of Dark Side of the Moon. As a Roger Waters fan, I'm going to absorb it. It's not going to replace the version that has all the Dave Gilmour guitars on it for me. So it's pretty cut and dry. I'm stoked. I listened to Money, and I loved it. Anyway, you guys, that's about all I want to spend time on this today. Thank you for joining me. I'm sure you can leave me some comments like David Gilmour is the real musician in Pink Floyd. David Gilmour has a better voice. Roger Waters' voice isn't good. Roger Waters doesn't even know how to tune his own bass, and all that other bullshit. And you know what I say to that? Well, look into the charity that David Gilmour, when he did his $30 million auction, when he auctioned off all of his guitars, look into that charity that he donated all that money. Is it a real charity or is it a bullshit? Is it a one percenter pretend organization? Tell me if you can summarize Dave Gilmour's, when he spoke at the United Nations, can you summarize what was the point of what Dave Gilmour said when, oh wait, Dave Gilmour didn't speak at the United Nations. That was his bass player, Roger Waters. All right, you guys, I'm going to let you go. Make sure you hug your pets. That's the most important thing. Show an animal some love, some affection. Try to keep cool. And don't judge people over their politics. Okay? We don't do that. We don't do that at the table. Peace.